Guys, welcome back to another episode of DBAP Chat. Now, this one's a little bit different. And as I started telling people what my plan was, a lot of people were like, either you're fucking dumb or you're insane. But I get that a lot either way. So it's not a big deal. So I started this just so I can have conversations with amazing people. And that's what I've done so far. I've talked to people that run 100 miles recently, people that are training for just unbelievable feats, and some people that have been through some just incredible issues with substance abuse and came out the other end. Again, this one's a little different because, and to be honest, to those other guys, y'all's story don't hold a candle to this one. If you want to know something about me, you're about to get it, right? Because I don't think I could filter her if I wanted to. It wouldn't matter. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my former wife and my co-parent, Miss Lisa Myers. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Good morning. Actually, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. Just just been working out and keeping these animals in check here. So you notice I use former wife versus ex-wife because I think there's so much negative connotation when somebody says ex-wife, and we don't have that kind of relationship, right? So that's how I'm going to refer to you in this one. Is that okay?
Perfectly fine by me. I agree.
Okay. Well, I've got a question for you, right? And this is the thing I think most people want to know. Okay.
Okay.
They see these pictures of Ava, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody says she's my clone, right? Now I see little things of both. Now I agree, 95% me, and I think she'll agree with that. Tell me what you think. When you look at Ava, what do you see?
When I look at her and I look at my baby pictures, I think she looks a lot like my baby pictures. When you look at pictures of me swimming when I was 3 or 4 years old, it looks like her. I wish I could duplicate some of them, but we don't have the same, inner tube or raft or bathing suit. But I see a lot of my baby pictures in her face. But when I look at her face and like if I just look at her blankly and my picture is not next to her, she looks like you now. She's got your cheeks, she's got your eyes, she has your nose. Like I look at her and I can see me when I'm younger. I don't see me right now. I do think she's got like a nice mix of like her eyes are more your color than mine, but every once in a while she'll wear like a yellow or a light pink and they look more like mine. But man, she is just like you. And you can ask her, where'd you get so smart? My daddy. Where'd you get so funny? My daddy. Yeah, I got her to say pretty is from mommy, but she still knows clumsy is from mommy for sure.
Okay, well, I agree with that. Okay, but if she's got her intelligence for me, we're in a lot of trouble.
It's big time yours. It is big time yours, and we are doomed. Just so you know.
Yeah, I know. So she's also stubborn, like me too. So that's man, it's gonna be a fun ride for the next forever, right? So yep. I'm going to share a little about you, Lisa. For people that don't know, Lisa is an elementary teacher. She's taught pretty much every grade, K through third. You never taught second, have you?
I've never taught second.
Yes, yeah, I know you. So you handle the little ones, right? The one thing this is funny, one thing that I was thinking about that stuck out to me was when I first became obsessed with, because I had been in fitness, and you obviously know the story better than anyone. I had just kind of fallen apart, and I got my Apple Watch, right? And you got an Apple Watch too, and it was crazy that like I remember like you come home and I was like, man, I'm at 14,000 steps. And I'd worked out and done all this stuff. And then you'd look at your Apple Watch and you're like, I'm at 26,000 or something. Now, I never figured out how you were doing that. I mean, I'm sure it was something you figured some software, thing out, but you want to tell me a little bit about how on earth you got so many steps in a given day?
Sit down. Go talk to any teacher ever. Go talk to any teacher, especially an elementary one. You do not sit down during the day. And if you're sitting at your desk doing something else, they're doing something wrong, I promise you. So like there's no getting off your feet. They keep you on your toes all day long. There is no like sit down and break. I don't eat. Most professions, you get a 30-minute or an hour, if you're lucky, lunch break. I am lucky if I drop them off, get them through the line, sit them at the table, go back to my room and have 10 minutes to scarf down lunch as fast as I can while I'm getting my math lesson ready, and then go back and get them. So it's the profession and it's the nature of it. You really don't sit down. If you go thank a teacher today, because for real, we work harder than anyone. And anyone who has a problem with me having my summers off can go tell it to the wall, because no one wants to hear it. For those 10 months, I do not sit still.
No, I understand. I get that. So that kind of segs in to the to my next thing here is you have there's one quality that most teachers, especially elementary teachers, have to have, and that is patience. Let me ask you, how did that transfer over to tolerating me for the last decade and a half, almost 2 decades?
Oh my gosh. So many people would say, how on earth do you deal with this? And my response was usually, oh, I'm a teacher and I teach kindergarten. It's okay. This is nothing compared to dealing with 25 of them. But I mean, you're just intense all the time. So like, again, just be patient. No, just give him a minute. He's going to come around and figure this out. Just hold on. Let him deal with it his way. And now we'll calmly react after the tantrum is over. Because you are a lot like a 5 or 6 year old sometimes.
Sometimes. No, I get that. I understand. So now you mentioned the intensity. Tell a little about that.
You are just a very strong personality, and people either love you or they hate you. There is absolutely no in between. So you are just naturally, you just draw people to you, and you have this animated motion where you tell stories and you just get people so like wrapped up in them. Like, what happened now? Now tell me what's next. And you're just intense with everything. And when you want something, you go after it with everything you have. I mean, everything. Just that if you want something, you eat, sleep, breathe it until it's yours. So yeah, you have to like know your boundaries when other people have to know Boyd's boundaries when they're with you. Like, okay, well, hold on. This is how he is. Just wait a second. And let's wait and see what happens. Oh, okay. He's going in this direction or whatever. Like sometimes people don't know what to expect when you're around. So
yeah,
you just kind of learn. All right, well, be patient. He's like a kid. He's got to learn where he's going first, and like he's got a method to his madness. You just have to give him a moment to show you what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in some cases I'm definitely reactionary. I'm animated. I agree with all that, and I also been known to like squirrel, shiny object syndrome, right? So no, I agree 100%. So you talked about me telling stories, and we're going to do a little bit of that. Right. So looking back, and when I told you I was going to ask you this, because I really wanted you to have a second to think about it. This is really the only thing that we kind of I kind of prepped her for.
Yeah.
Looking back, what is one of your funniest stories, funniest memories you have of me? Because remember, I get to do this too, right? So I'm curious, looking back, what was something funny that when you think about it, you can't help but just laugh?
I thought about it this morning because I was like, what are some of the things that you are generally a funny person just to be around. You are a lot of fun. And I had so many people who are always like, you two are such a happy, like fun couple to be with all the time. So I really had a hard time thinking of like one specific incident or maybe two that would just make me like crack up when I thought about it again. And I came up with two that were absolutely like, you really did kind of have to be there, but they were just like so thrown back with like, oh my gosh, that's so typical of Boyd. And one was the first time I think I ever heard you sing karaoke. When you went up and you and Tyler and Roberto and Adrian all went up and sang End of the Road.
Yeah.
And if you want to retell this, you will probably do it much better than I do. But I knew you could sing because I've heard you sing. But then to have you go up and sing like a slow song and a ballad, and with three guys who you would not think could sing as well as they could, you all went up and like were doing harmonies and backgrounds, and we had like no's going on with go, and it was magical. And I wish I still had a video of it. Yeah, but we were all there in shock, like, oh my gosh, what a way to end the night. Great song. A cappella at the end. It was wonderful. And then my other thing that I thought of was when we were at North Rock on Father's Day and they made you do the push-up competition. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Because we had to go against another guy, and I think I think they purposely chose to like fit guys to go up there. I think he might have been armed forces too. I don't really remember. But so you both were like, he was big and muscular and broad, but he's doing they had people counting for them. So they're counting, Boyd's going, going, going. This guy is counting and going and going, and he's slowing down. Boyd's not slowing down. He's slowing down. Boyd's not slowing down. They get to like 50 and he's pretty much stopped. So Boyd stops and he puts one hand in the middle and one hand behind his back and goes and does some more. And the other guy was like, that's it, I'm out, done. And that was the end of it. But everyone was like in shock that not only did you do as many as you did, as fast as you did, but then you like altered it and went to one arm even after the 50 or 60 you had already done. And that was it. The whole church, the whole congregation was laughing. It was awesome.
Yeah, I remember that it was Father's Day and they were bringing dads up to just compete against one another, right? And let's see. And when they said, and we didn't know what you were getting chosen for, they just called you out, right? And I stood up, and then that guy stood up, and I didn't know him, right? And he didn't know me. And they said, these guys are going to do a push-up contest, right? For military, Boyd owns a gym. And I remember I told you, it's over. It's over, you know? And there were some cool gifts, right? There's grills, there was Yeti coolers, there was gift cards. So yeah, we got going, and just, it was well over, he was at about 50. I was already well over 70, but I watched him start to break, and I was like, you know what? Let me end this right now. So I didn't want them to say I stopped before he did, right? Because I was like, well, I'm up 20 to maybe 25 up on him right now. And I can keep going. I've still got 50 more in me if I need to. I was like, but and it was hot. I mean, let's stop this nonsense and just end it. And I switched over to the one arm push-ups. He just done, right? So
and that definitely stopped it. He was like, oh, hell no, I'm out.
Yeah, he basically did. He basically said, at church, basically said, yo, fuck this, right? So the other thing, the end of the road karaoke. Yeah, that was a magical moment.
Magical.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that we didn't get signed to a record deal, especially after that, I mean, if YouTube was as big then, and all this social media, there's zero chance I wouldn't be opening for those guys right now.
You would have been the next boy band.
Yes, right. And you know, you do know who grew up in Harlan, right? It's kind of in our blood down there, right? 98 degrees. So
Lachey?
Yeah, Nick Lachey.
Yeah, right.
Harlan County boy, right? So So then I get to tell my favorite story about you now, my funny story, right? And it was hard to narrow these down, right? And I tell you, looking back at that, I thought for sure the story you're going to come up with was when we went to Kennedy's with my buddy Hank, who's as animated and as much of a fucking retard as I am, right? I'll never forget this. And then we go in, they're like, nope, you guys are not coming in. They just, as soon as we got, because we just looked like we were coming out there to get wild. And that guy goes, nope. And I was like, dude, you don't tell me no. And he's like, like the other guy comes and stands like they're trying to like swell out the door. And me and Hank, and this is in the powerlift, the bodybuilding years, right? So I'm about 240, pretty jacked. And Hank's he's about 5'7", but he's about 260, right? He looks like a professional wrestler. So these guys come to the door and they stand, and we're just like, you know what? We're not going to go to jail. But I walked over, and so I don't talk about this a lot, but I have a pretty vast martial arts background. And that guy was like, he come walking out like he wanted to talk some nonsense. And Lisa, do you remember what I did on that brick wall?
Oh, of course. You were like, don't touch me, I'm leaving. And then you kept walking. He all of a sudden does like this jump spin back kick and kicks this lamp that's like 10 feet up in the air. Everyone's just like, what on earth just happened? And
that guy said, fuck that.
Yeah. Hey, let him go.
and I was doing that come on, like laughing about it. And I just say it was a jumping, spinning outer crescent kick, and I just like there was the lamp. I don't think it was 10, but it was probably 9 feet. It was I couldn't just reach up and touch it. There was a pretty big gap there. Okay. Yeah. So a couple of things, right? So you're kind of slow playing this. You're making me look like the intense one. But you actually are the one with the endurance background, right? So why don't you tell everyone what you did in high school and in college?
So I was a college swimmer. I started swimming when I was about 8 years old, and I really liked it, so I kept doing it. I wasn't very good. I do not have like a whole wall of blue ribbons or anything, but I enjoyed being on a team and being in the pool. And when I got to college, I went to a Division 3 school, so it was just walk on. And I walked on. I was like, I want to join the team, and so I joined the team. And I was a distance swimmer, so I swim the 500, the 1,000, and the mile.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So I got a lot of my advice from you, and we're going to talk about why you were pretty much unable to come to the pool with me during prep. There was a reason. But I mean, basically, I learned to swim from your advice and YouTube, right? Because I hadn't swam a lot in 25 years. I was never a good swimmer when I started. But I have a question for you.
Okay.
Could you beat me in a mile right now?
No, not a chance.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. You probably could.
Absolutely not.
I
don't know that I could finish a mile right now.
Yeah, I zero doubt you could finish a mile. You probably beat me because I don't know if I can finish a mile right now. No, I can absolutely finish a mile. But yeah, I'm not having that obsession right now that I did, because there was a time when I knew I had to swim 5 to 7 times a week. Right now it's more like 2. I may get in a third. I just I felt like I can survive now. That was the thing I didn't know before, right? I didn't know. I didn't know if I could do 2.4 miles in open water. I didn't know if I could survive. I didn't have a lot of confidence in it. Now that I know, it's under my belt. I know I can do it. Now it's about keeping the minimal swim skills possible. I figure if I go out and I kick ass, right, I might be able to get it down to a minute or an hour 15, hour 20. If I suck, I'll do an hour 30, 35, right? I figure I'm going to conserve all that energy for the back end of the race, because nobody's ever won or really changed a whole lot about an Ironman in the swim, but you can absolutely get out there and lose. I almost lost my chance of finishing an Ironman within the first 10 minutes of it. So my goal is survive the swim. So right now, I mean, if you swam for a week or two, you'd probably be laying me to waste. But I'm willing to say this right here: fuck around and find out. You want to go? Let me know. We'll go. No, hey, so
you have a little bit of an advantage these days, just a little bit.
Yeah, but I think I've got like 75 pounds on you. I mean, you got a missile in the water. So you almost got away right there, because shiny object syndrome. So I didn't get to share my funny stories about you. Okay.
No, I was hoping you might have forgot.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So okay, the one of them was I was training a girl who was this girl's ungodly physique, right? And we're going to her first show, and we kind of knew, like, she didn't know that, but we kind of knew, like, there's no way she doesn't win. I mean, going in, and she cleaned up, right? There were these people that had competed, and they took it so much serious. She walked in and smoked it. But on the way, we're riding. We rode to Shreveport, Louisiana from San Antonio, Texas. And we're in the car, and they're like nervous because they wanted to listen to hip hop. Well, they didn't know. So Lisa can tell you, Lisa can vouch. I know every song ever written from everybody, right? But they're like nervous. We're not going to want to listen to hip hop. But that was important to them. For her, and that's what relaxed them, right? So the first song we turn on XM, the R&B channel or hip hop channel, and DMX comes on, right? And it wasn't Up in Here. It wasn't one of the ones that everybody knows, right? Lisa, out of nowhere, and we've been together for several years at this point, out of nowhere kicks into perfect rhythm of the song. And everybody in the car, we're all like, what the fuck was that, right? So we didn't see that coming, right? So I always remember that. So every time I hear DMX, I always laugh. Rough Rider anthem. I'm always like, there you go. I take a picture and send it to you like your shit's on, right? Another one would be so one of my clients and good friends was kicking for the Chargers and the Texans, Nick Novak, and he was out of the league, and he and his girl had a spat or whatever, and he wanted to go out and do what I like to do, go out and just rip it up and drink some beers, and we did, and we go back and we crash at my house because he was living with his parents this time, right? And he didn't want to go to his parents' house all hammered. And we just came in, he just crashed out, right? And I'll never forget that. You went to get water or something, and you came back in and you said, there's a fucking NFL kicker sleeping on our couch. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, hey, can you take me home? like a big child. And I don't know how much he's changed like here recently either. Out of the league, I mean, all pro, and I mean, still the same guy. I think he's probably still maybe living with his mom right now. But my favorite Lisa story, and I think you know what it is, right? And here, I want to preface this by saying there was at no point, we never ever had a violent relationship. I mean, I can be violent. I fuck somebody up, they need to be fucked up, right? But I would never, ever, ever hurt anyone in my family or something, ever. There's no, I'm not threatening to hit any, woman or anything. Never laid a paw on anybody domestically, right? So it was Lisa's birthday. And I was either with clients or something, but her school teacher friends wanted to take her out for drinks, right? And I said, yeah, no problem. I can come and get her on the way, to our house. And I drive, and I can't remember what birthday it was, right? But it was, if I'm doing the math right, it would have had to been, I want to say your 25th birthday. It was early, right? Probably something like that, right? Probably on
had to be mid-20s.
Yeah, so
had to be mid-20s.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. You were. I walked in to Houlihan's in San Antonio, and I saw the glow on your face and the gloss in your eyes. I'm like, oh yeah, she's fucked up, right? And
what happens when people feed you shots all night long? Right?
Yeah, no, hey, I'm not. Hey, look, listen, I'm not. Hey, I'm not. Look, I can't say anything, right? I've more than
took care of you enough times. It was your turn.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So I come in, and she's got this big, you can see she looks like she's got 70 teeth in the front of her mouth, right? So she's ear to ear smiling, and I realized, oh, she is fucked up. So I was like, you ready to go? She's like, okay, I'm hungry. And I was like, come on, we'll stop and get food on the way. Okay. So we go to, I had a Jeep at this point. We had a Jeep, and we took the doors off that Jeep, like, and the windows off that Jeep, like day one. And I don't think I put them back on for like a year, maybe, right? So everything's off the Jeep. We hadn't had the Jeep very long, right? And she was in, and seatbelts in, and she's like, let's go to Whataburger. Let's go to Whataburger. I'm like, okay, we'll go to Whataburger. And she's like, tell them, and then we're not at the line, right? She's not. She starts this wanting a double cheese Whataburger with extra mayonnaise and pickles. And I'm like, okay, I got you, extra mayonnaise and pickles. She's like, tell them, and I'm like, we're not. I mean, so we get there, and I'm like ordering, and she's telling me repeatedly, extra mayonnaise and pickles. And the guy at Whataburger said, ma'am, I heard you. So she's ready to go, right? And then like this, so we get these Whataburgers, we drive, we live like maybe a mile away. We go upstairs, and she's raising hell on this hamburger, right? So she opens this cheeseburger up, and this damn thing, mayonnaise and pickles are falling off of it in the wrapper. And they like, all right, we're going to show you extra mayonnaise and pickles. So she gets it, starts eating it, and I'm like, I need something, I need water. So I'm like, give her water. And this drunk I've ever seen, right? And I come back, and this cheeseburger's mangled. There's mayonnaise and pickles all down your arm. It's torn in half, and there's like one bite out of it, right? And the bread's like on the freaking couch, right? And I'm like, and it's funny because she demanded this cheeseburger. So I clean this burger up, right? Wipe her off. Pick her up, and I'm like trying to guide her into the bedroom so she can go to bed. And she wakes up. She's out. She's walking. She hadn't said a word. And then she goes, "Where's my fucking hamburger?" And I remember thinking, I don't know where that came from. And I start snickering, and I start laughing. And I said, "You ate it." And she said, "No, motherfucker, I didn't." And the lights are off. You can't see anything. So I don't see when she spins around and fucking hit. Listen, I've been in martial arts. I've been hit hard, but I can honestly say that no one ever hit me, and you caught right on the chin. And I remember hearing, and I remember stumbling back. You watered my eyes. You my jaw, loosened my jaw for me, and my ears were ringing. And I remember thinking, there's a glass shelf behind me. I don't want to fall into that. So I'm like, what the fuck? Then I get my bearing back, and I go over there, and I realize she's standing up, knocked out of sleep. So I take her, put her in the bed, fix her hair, put water and Gatorade by the bed, put a trash can, and I take my ass to the couch. I don't want to have anything. I don't want to be near you. Next morning at about 7 a.m., you wake up and you walk in there, and I'm laying on the couch, and I hear you, and I'm still upset that you punched me. My jaw's still a little sore. And you said, "Hey, babe, are we okay?" So yeah. So look, hey, look, man. Hey, I know you can bang. You'll put hands on somebody if you have to, right? So,
I
um,
don't remember any of it. I just woke up and I was like, he's not next to me. There's water, there's Gatorade. Like, clearly I was taken care of, but why isn't he with me? I wonder if we got in a fight.
yeah,
Be
to
all
say the
right.
least, right?
And I was
Yeah,
not hungover at all, surprisingly. I remember at 7 a.m. Like, I remember this like it was yesterday. Me just being like, uh-oh, what happened?
yeah, I
Oops.
remember it too, Lisa. So, all right. So a lot of people online have heard me tell the story, right? So, this isn't a whole lot about me. So in 2018, um, leading up. So we had some challenges with getting pregnant with Ava, right? And
Mhm.
I mean that was
Yep.
she's our gift, she's our rainbow baby. So you were still a very high risk pregnancy, right? And here
Mhm.
we are 3 weeks out. It's Father's Day, right?
Mhm.
And I remember I go to work, I don't feel well, and I thought, man, I got reading on WebMD, and I thought, man, this isn't good. I think I'm having a heart attack. I mean, we had been through a lot of stress with the pregnancy, with the job. I worked, at least 70 hours every single week. I mean, so the hours got long. My physical shape, I had allowed myself to get out of shape, so I was living as completely unhealthy as possible. I've been open about that. But that day, I remember I came home, right? Do you remember? And I said, I don't feel well. Let's go.
Mhm.
We need to go to the ER. Right? Tell me, tell
Yeah.
me, tell me from your point of view, because everyone's heard my point of view on that day.
Mhm.
Share with everyone what was going through your mind that
That was the scariest day ever. I mean, we're about to have a baby. I am like 60 pounds overweight trying to cram into your truck, like driving down 380 with the flashers on, trying to do 90, like beeping at people. You're like hand out the window, trying to shoo them out of the way, like they're going to listen. Like it was really scary. And then we get there and they hook all the stuff up and they're doing tests and it's just like a waiting game. And you're like, what is going on? Like, I need you can't do this by myself. I need you here. I need you to breathe. I need you awake. I need you there. And it was really scary. And like you said, like I feel like I had had all the health issues up until that point, and then all of a sudden it was you in the bed, and it was not. I was not okay with that. It was not
day.
fun a day at all. It was very scary.
Yeah, and to my credit, I stayed the course. I kept unhealthy living, right? I think I behaved that day, but after that, pretty quick, I kind of went back into a spiral. So move forward. Ava was born,
Yeah.
absolutely
Hmm.
healthy, July 19th. So if my dates are right, I want to say that was probably June 22nd, 21st when I had the health scare. Ava was born less than a month later, July 19th. Still, I'm now conscious of the fact that, like, hey, I've got to get better, right? Um,
Hmm.
I mean, work started having just a rough time at work. I was very, very unhappy with that. Miserable. But I was conscious, right? And you know that I went out in that October and said I'm going to go run. I mean, I can go do that.
Hmm.
And I thought I could go run 3 or 4 miles. I made it to the top of Spanish Oak Drive and was fucking done, right? So I came back, nothing still changed, but at least I was there in my mind. But I started like occasionally, I was like, okay, let me get on this Peloton. We spent fucking $3,000 on this bike or whatever it was. Start riding that, but nothing was sticking, right? And then December 12th, right? And I don't want to get to December 22nd yet, okay? So we're gonna definitely get there. That's the big part of the story, right? So December 12th, right? I decided I listened to Goggins, and I was like, I mean, at that point, this is an emotional part for me. At that point, um, a light came on. You remember that? You remember going through that?
A little bit, but I feel like there was so much going on at that time just with like Christmas, baby.
Sure.
Peyton was right there. Like Peyton had just
Yeah.
moved in too. So like there was just so much house family stuff that it was like, are you okay? Constantly like, you all right? Are you gonna do this? Are we gonna do that? Like just like checking in on you.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, so at that point, I basically, if you remember this right here or not, I mean, you don't watch, you're not paying attention to me on social media like everyone's going to watch this stuff. So on that night, that day I had started. I tried that run again. I couldn't do it. This time I got on the Peloton road and I ended up riding for 4 hours. It was like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I woke up that witching hour and I was like, I'm gonna go get on this fucking bike, right? And I go get on it, and I rode for 4 hours. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I didn't know how to hydrate for endurance. I mean, I had all the knowledge in the world about how to get big and strong, but I didn't know anything about that. And I wasn't doing it for weight loss. I was doing it because there wasn't a whole lot more I could do, right? So soon thereafter, I say, fuck it, right? Now, I mean, I joke about it, right? You know, you and I, we're both UFC fans. And I remember, we'd go watch it somewhere, and you'd have these guys that have never been in a fight coaching George St. Pierre on how to take a leg, right, or whatever, right? So I joke about that. Man, a guy goes to a Taekwondo class and becomes a UFC champion, right? So I was no different from that. I rode 4 hours on a Peloton and decided, you know what, I need to go ahead and sign up for this Ironman, right? And that's basically what I did, right? So now we're mid-December. I've never been on a road bike. I've been on a Peloton. I hadn't swam a lap in 25 years. And I've tried twice unsuccessfully to run more than a quarter of a mile, right? So, but I've started, and that was a big thing. And I remember I was embracing it. I was like, cause I bought an Apple Watch, right? And I was like, this way I can track some stuff, right? And I ignored it forever, but I mean, for a month or two. But I started doing it. So for 10 days, which at that point, it's crazy to think about. That was just 10 days, right? I mean, it just seemed like I felt like by the time December 22nd rolled around, that I already felt different, right? So that was December 22nd, 2018 was a Saturday. Obviously, it's right before Christmas. Now, we were planning on having everyone over for a Christmas party, everyone from work and our friends, right? So we're planning this Christmas party, and you had decided, which against my better judgment, don't fuck with
you told me no.
Do not fuck
you
with
told me no.
Yeah, I mean, that ladder, the ladder, I mean, there's no reason. We have plenty. You guys understand, I've got freaking 400 boxes of Christmas stuff in my garage right now, because that one right there is, I mean, never seen anything like it. I mean, there's shit everywhere, right? I mean, it's an ordeal. And it's exhausting. There's shit everywhere. There's 8 Christmas trees. I mean, it's just chaos. But there's 2 all the time. Right? So stuff everywhere. Every room's got something, right? So there's a lot of Christmas stuff. So you decide you're going to go hang more Christmas lights up, because in the backyard, it was unseasonably warm. You remember that? And we figured a lot of people are going to be out in our backyard. I'll let you tell it. So I was at work, I was selling a house, and you get on a ladder at roughly 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. Go.
Probably. Yeah, everything was done. House was clean, food was ready, everything looked great. And it was, like you said, really, really warm that day. It was like probably mid 70s. And so I was just thinking, wow, it'd be really nice to light the fire pit, maybe put some of the food on our outdoor kitchen. We could have icicle lights around the patio. It'd be really pretty, nice Christmas ambiance. You know how I am about Christmas. And so that was the plan, and didn't exactly go according to plan. So as I was hanging them, the ladder started shaking and slipped out from under me. I'm not sure if I hit the concrete maybe on the septic tank, if I caught my leg in the ladder, if the ladder went one way, I went another way. I honestly have no idea how it happened, and everything happened so fast. I did not sit and analyze what was going on. But I remember landing, looking down, and my foot was going one way and my leg was going the other way, and my bone was sticking out. And so saw my bone coming out of my leg and looked at it and jumped up, because my phone was on the other side of the yard. It was on the kitchen, and I was probably a good, I don't know, 5 or 6 yards away from it, probably, maybe even further, from where like your bedroom window is to the kitchen.
From where you're at to that. I mean, I've walked it off. It's more like it's probably if it was on the table over there, if it was on the countertop there, around it's closer to about 40 feet.
Okay. Yep. See.
Go ahead.
So I hopped over to the counter because that's where my phone was. So I jumped up and was on my right leg, just holding my left leg up, and hopped on over to the counter and opened my phone and dialed 911. And while it was ringing, Peyton was watching Ava. So he opened the door and came out back, and he was like, "What was that? I heard a really loud noise. What was it?" And I said, "Go inside." And he was like, but what happened? Are you okay? And I was like, "Just go inside. I need you to take care of your sister. Get inside and just make sure she's okay. Keep her in her chair, give her milk if she needs it." Because she's only 5 months old at the time. And as Peyton was standing there, the 911 operator answered, and 911, what's your emergency? And I said, "I fell off a ladder and my bone is sticking out of my leg." And Peyton's eyes went huge, and he turned around and went back inside. And even in retrospect, he's like, "Man, I really wish I would have gone and looked at it." Like, "No, you did not. Nope, you did not want to see that. Just get inside and take care of your sister." And so I stayed on the phone with the 911 operator, but I sat in the corner, like between the house and the outdoor kitchen. And so my bone was like in the grass and the dirt, basically, while I was waiting. And the 911 operator is asking me all these questions, and you can start to hear the sirens. And she's asking me about you, who do you need us to call? So they start calling you, and you're not answering because you're at work, and this is a random number. And I don't know, everything was kind of a whirlwind. Like, you could probably tell that part a little bit better, because I remember seeing Charlie, asking him to come take care of the kids, and then seeing, like, as they were trying to give me an IV and it wasn't working because of where I was sitting. They were trying to like clot the blood around my leg. It wasn't bleeding. Your body is amazing. Just goes into shock, and I couldn't feel it. I was not dripping blood. Nothing was like super gory, but there it was, broken bone. And they were like touching my toes. "Can you feel this?" It was, like I said, it was a whirlwind. There were like 5 firemen and paramedics around me trying to figure out how they were going to get me onto the gurney without bending my leg. And they're touching my toes. "Can you feel this? Can you wiggle your toes?" And I could, which was miraculous, because my leg did not look like it was connected to my leg anymore. So yeah, I mean, that part, honestly, like, you could probably tell the next few hours better than I can, because I remember being swooped away in an ambulance and going to Medical City and just being in the waiting room forever, waiting for them to tell me what was next.
Yeah, that day I got that call, and finally they called my office, and my office called me, and that was somebody I would answer, right? And I remember I got home, right, and they were like being evasive on telling me what happened. I was like, "Listen, motherfucker, I've got little kids, and I've got what happened," right? So I remember being more frustrated with that, like not knowing. I mean, Ava, something happened there. Was somebody was there an explosion? They're like, "Well, your wife fell, but she's conscious." I'm like, "Okay, that's all you needed to fucking say," right? I remember I got home in record time, right? And I remember no one warned me, and Kyle, our neighbor, he's a fireman and a paramedic, but he's not with this department. He'd come down there, to kind of watch out. And no one warned me that what I was about to walk into, right? And I come around the corner and your leg just out hanging, right? So the next few hours were crazy. Rushed to Medical City. And then there was we didn't know, how bad it was. That day and that month, there's not a ton to tell. You were just in the hospital. It was Ava's first Christmas. Basically, we were in the hospital for that, right? But there was a lot, right? So you'd gotten blood poisoning from the dirt, right? And and then that month, you came home for a day, like the day after Christmas, but it was just nonstop. It was like, we spent 30 days in the hospital. And I remember for me, at that point, we had Ava, and then Peyton was, luckily he was on Christmas break. That made it, somewhat, bearable. But yeah, I remember just walking around the hospital, because I was like, because you were sleeping most of the time, right? And I was like, I remember for Christmas, she had bought me those running shoes I wanted. And I'm running around the hospital, walking up downstairs. I'm like, I'm gonna get my steps in, right? I would just go for jogs around Medical City, and then they ended up taking you to another hospital over in Plano. But you spent the most part of a first month going through that, right? So you come home.
So they, like you said, they didn't tell us anything. Like when we went to the emergency room, we were like, are we looking at surgery? Am I getting a cast? Are we going home today, tomorrow, the next day? Like, what is the plan here? And they really didn't have a plan. They did surgery that night on the 22nd and they put my bone back in my leg, but they really didn't fix it. The next day, the surgeon came and he actually put in like a plate and screws and redid my joint and then put it in a cast. And he said, there was a lot of dirt in there. I'm not worried about whether or not you're going to heal. I'm worried about whether or not it's going to get infected. You're going to have to keep a really good eye on this. And so I ended up going home the day after Christmas. And by New Year's Eve, I was back at the doctor telling him, I'm pretty sure it's infected.
Right.
And it was a different doctor. He was ready to send me home. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, it looks a little red. I'm going to write you a prescription for an antibiotic and, we'll just follow up with your doctor later. And while he's dismissing me, my doctor messages him because he was out of town and it said like, no, that's not going to work. You're going to have to readmit her. So on New Year's Eve, I got to spend Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve in the hospital. They readmitted me for like another 10, 12 days, something like that.
Yeah.
And I had to have 2 irrigation and debridements. And they did a PICC line in my arm. That was super fun. 6 weeks of giving yourself antibiotics 3 times a day. And they had to put that wound vac on the top of my foot because remember my skin wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
So then we had an in-home wound care doctor coming and changing the dressing. I don't remember, every other day, maybe 3 times a week. So yeah, I had people coming delivering medicine. I had people coming to do physical therapy. I had people coming to change the wound vac. We had like medical people in our house every day. I ended up missing all of school up until spring break, I think. I went back after spring break that year. And because my skin didn't come back, I had to have a skin graft. Took skin from my upper thigh and put it on the top of my foot in hopes that it would take. And that didn't work either. Remember, that didn't. Then I had to go see a wound specialist once a week to try to close the wound because even the skin graft was not, my bone on the top of my foot was still exposed.
Right. The ligament.
So,
I remember that damn ligament was out. I remember that was the big thing.
Yes. It was just a nightmare. It felt like it was one complication after another. And after all of that, I still couldn't walk right. I had a really, really pronounced limp. I like physically could not roll my foot when I was taking a step. It was like this leg just stops and then this leg would overstep to compensate for it. And it was this constant Walking Dead limp everywhere we went. And I finally got back in to see my surgeon. I had like run out of physical therapy. I had run out, my surgeon had changed practices. And so he wasn't covered by my insurance anymore.
Yeah.
And so we finally got in to go see him in like beginning of August, I think, finally. This is my first follow-up probably since May, maybe beginning of June. And he does x-rays and I'm like, what's the deal, dude? Why am I still limping? And he goes, well, let me show you your x-rays. Your bone is still broken. Your bone's broken here and your screws are coming out. Your hardware's in the wrong place. One of your nails is going straight through your ankle joint. Like everything is wrong. Everything. This is not what we did in December and now it looks totally wrong. And so after all that, I was like, maybe I should get a second opinion. So I went to like 2 or 3 different specialists and they did all tell me what my surgeon told me. He said, we need to take everything out and we need to do a bone culture to make sure there is no infection. Because I do think that that's why it didn't heal. And so that's what I ended up doing with an orthopedic specialist. He took all the hardware out. He did a bone culture and there was no infection still in there. And that was September of 2019 now. So now they took everything out, but I don't have any bone and I don't have a joint because there's no hardware in there holding me together. I just have this boot that I'm constantly walking in and it hurts. And I think in November they did the bone graft.
Yeah, the week before
Ironman. So They rebuilt my bone using like stem cells and cadaver bone and some hardware, and they put everything back together. So then I was non-weight bearing yet again for another, gosh, 2 months, 3 months. I feel like I didn't put my foot down again until like March. And once they knew the bone graft took and I had bone down there, I did not have a joint. So then they did a full ankle replacement in June of 2020. And that was the last of it. And I have been at least somewhat walking ever since. Still hurts a lot sometimes. So just kind of depends on the day.
I remember and I mean, obviously, I was also during then, had a lot going on, taking care of the family and you and, chauffeuring and everything. I remember little things like you getting crutches and like, oh, no, she can move. I don't have to help her. Right. I mean, I'd mind helping it wasn't that, but I mean, there was a minute there where you couldn't move without me. Right. So, I mean, so obviously wasn't working. And then you got your little knee scooter and we're tearing ass all over the house dangerously. I remember thinking, slow the fuck down, right? Then Peyton would get on it, drive it off, and you couldn't get to it. I remember that. But I remember
I need that.
We went to so right as COVID started appearing, right? So the end of January, we went to the Dominican Republic, and I remember you were still on crutches, right? And so we get to Dominican, we find out Kobe Bryant's dying, but I remember you were walking on those crutches and it was humid. I remember I just happened to be in the right place at the right time because one went east, one went west, and I caught you. And I remember thinking, right, we're still like so far. Obviously, I mean, we lasted for about another month after that. Been apart since March of 2020. So we were one of the first few COVID casualties, right? But I just and I had guilt, because I was stressed out of my mind, obviously. And the way the only thing that may have gotten me through that, which is probably selfish, I mean, was I was preparing for Ironman, right? So I don't think people understand. I think I had every excuse to say I'm not doing this race, right? But I didn't. And I remember the biggest disappointment was when I realized you weren't going to be able to be there.
For me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely, for me too. Because I remember that night like it was yesterday also. And I remember like staring at my phone and watching you finish this way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was but I remember one of my favorite stories from Ironman was, I mean, you don't know because you're just watching that app, right? And I mean, obviously, I've got the goggle situation, and then I had to slow way down to swim. It took me way longer than I thought, right?
But I remember watching your swim thinking like, oh God, something happened. Like something happened. There's no way he's still that far. There's no way that man is still in the water at this point. Like something went wrong.
Right. No, I trust me. Yeah, that was Chris still holds that over me. He beat me on a swim, and I'm like, dude, I gave you 30 minutes. I gave you 30 minutes, and I got your ass before mile 40 on the bike, son. So I remember, and it was crazy. I still get to go back and I can read that because you were posting updates on Facebook, and you're like, I remember you're like, and people were like, holy fuck, he's holding 18 miles an hour, 19, whatever on the bike. You're like, he'll hold it the whole time. And I mean, so it was crazy because looking back, I remember thinking, I got it now. Once I was on the bike, you knew I had it. Because that day before, I got kicked in the face in that swim. And I called you basically saying, I don't think I can fucking do this, right? And you talked me down. You're like, hey, you fucking have done it. Dude, it ain't gonna be worse than that. You're alive, right? I thought my nose was fucking broken. Couldn't breathe out of my nose that day. I thought, man, I wasn't ready. You cannot simulate more than 2,000 people going in the water at the same time. There's just no way, right? So I got kicked in the face. It fucked me up. I called you. You talked me down. I kind of laughed at it. And that's when I said, I'll be okay as long as I don't lose my goggles or some dumb shit like that, right? Obviously, I lost my goggles. So hence adding 30 minutes to my swim, right? Anyway, I still have those goggles. I found them. They were returned to me, which is just unbelievable in itself, right? So I remember at probably somewhere around mile 20, you're back into town running through Tempe, and there's people. I mean, I had met a guy from San Antonio. It was weird how many people we knew together in this. We were joking, we're talking while we're kind of jogging together. We stayed together like mile 10 on, and he sees somebody he knows. And I said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you take a picture of me with him and send it to my wife? Just let her know. And yeah, and that you realize, hey, you posted it, and you're like, shit, he looks fine, right? And I remember
smiling.
yeah, because I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't. At that point, I don't think I realized you could. People, somebody, I think my sister or one of my
Mhm.
one of my friends found the finish line. They don't do that at every race. They didn't at that point. They probably do now. They didn't at
Mhm.
that point. Luckily, it's one of the bigger races, so they did do it. So now I am now 101 days out from Ironman Waco. Got a
Mhm.
whole fucking lot going on here with sell this house, everything else in life, right? So I mean, so I'm doing the full Ironman and a half Ironman on 210.5.
Mhm.
You said it earlier on. You said whatever I focus on, I'll fucking get it, right?
Yep.
Knowing me like you do, okay?
Mhm.
What would you say? Because I'm carrying the flag, right? You know how I
Mhm.
feel. You know how I feel about those cheesy country songs about the country. What would you say that situation means to me from an outsider looking in that knows me like you do? What do you think that means to me?
I would say probably everything, like with the exception of Ava, everything. I mean, I feel like that just hits home really, really hard for you. Like you are a veteran. You have lost so many friends. You've lost more people than anyone else I know. And you, like we said, can put your mind to it and get it done, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. If it's a work goal, if it's a personal goal, if it's, I don't even know. If you're like, this is it, I'm going to go outside and I'm not going to stop walking until I reach California, you could probably do it for some reason. But that's just the type of person you are. So knowing that this is also like an emotional thing for you too, because of what it means to carry the flag while you do it, just kind of like an added bonus. Physically and mentally, your body of anybody can handle it because you know how to. You understand the body better than anybody else I have ever seen. And I've always said that because even when you were doing figure competitions, it's people tell you, I want to look this way at that time. And you knew how to make that happen for them. And so you just understand the way the body works, what to eat, what to fuel with it. And so the mental and physical part of it, mentally, you've got it. Physically, you know how to make it work. You know when to replenish and when to hydrate and when to fuel. And then when you add in that emotional factor of carrying the flag and what it means for soldiers, veterans, anyone who's active or previous military, and anyone who's ever lost anybody in the military, which is pretty much everyone nowadays, it just adds that extra incredible push. And I have no doubt you're going to do it. You're going to finish both of them, and you'll probably finish in the top in both of them.
No, I'm not going to finish near the top. Finishing both is all that matters, right? I've said that right there. I'm not worried about personal best. I'm not worried about anything. I'm worried about surviving
Mhm.
day one, getting there on day two, and having the opportunity to do it, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, I already know. I mean, an Ironman. I mean, I've done it, right? So then that was the way it was what I had to do. So you were with me through Ironman prep. You were also with me through bodybuilding prep, right?
Mhm.
And a funny story about that. I remember the night before. So this was before spray tan, right? You didn't
Mhm.
get spray tan. There was no spray tan booths at the shows. And I remember that night you had to paint me over and over and over and over again, right? That shit does not come
Yeah.
off if it gets on you. So I remember I
No.
had to I let it dry. I had to stand there and air dry at like 2 a.m. I'm dying, right? I'm depleted. I'm dying. And I remember you finished painting me, and I lay down on this like tarp sheet we had, and I'm laying like this, right? And I fall asleep, which I never did. I fell asleep the second I had the pillow, and you felt so bad for me. You laid down beside me, and you put your head on me, unaware that I'm painted, and you had a perfect square of bodybuilding paint right on the side of your face.
Sure
Hey,
did. This is my orange square.
no, I know. So yeah, listen. I appreciate you coming on here. I'm going to wrap it up. I just got a couple more things I want to ask you about. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask me anything you want, right? So, which you can. Nothing's off limits with us. But I've got one for you. Let's say someone
Mhm.
called you about me for a reference. What would you
Uh-huh.
What would you say? I mean, anything. Work, girlfriend, whoever. Someone called you about me. What would you say?
Um,
Well, that's hard, right?
that you It is. You are intense. So I feel like that would be it. Like whatever you want them to do or whatever you expect from him, if he is interested and already applying and committed to this, this is what he's going to do. And he's going to give it his all no matter what. So I feel like it wouldn't be a matter of like if they're calling for a reference, they're already interested. And if they're calling for a reference because you applied or because you showed interest, you're already interested. So they've already got you. I mean, that's just how it is. If you don't want to do something, you're like, nah, I'm good. And if someone reaches out to you for it, then it's like completely your decision. So if when you apply for something or you're interested in doing something, you're going to make it happen. And someone was told she could just come in the door.
Hey there, little girl. How are you, chicken?
Good.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Come here. Come back up here for a moment.
Hey, baby. Hey, how'd you get so smart?
Turn that from you.
Yeah. How'd you get so funny?
From you.
How'd you get so pretty?
From you.
From you.
Hey, how'd you get so clumsy?
Where are you going? Get back. One more.
No,
Come here. She's all shy, hiding under the dust ruffle.
Well, Elise, I appreciate you. You know that. You know, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better co-parent than you. So I appreciate it. What would you like? I'm sure I'm going to give you the option. What would you like to ask me? I do this with every single one of anybody I sit with. It's not like you couldn't just fucking ask me if you wanted. You pick the phone.
This is true. Like I already talk to you every day. How many to take you for Wordle?
What's that?
I didn't get your Wordle this morning.
Oh shit! I haven't done Wordle yet. Good call. Yeah.
Well, come on.
Yeah, I feel like I'm this close to getting one on the first time. I just can't figure out why I can't reel it in. Because there's a couple of times they've actually used my words because I use like 7 different words. I'm like, damn. And
you chose the wrong one.
Yeah, so I got lilac into. I was really proud of that because luckily that day I used my name, right? So, well, no, hey, I appreciate you. Looks like someone there needs your assistance.
Yeah, she's gonna go have lunch. We haven't done that yet.
Okay, yeah, good. So I'll get on. I've got a couple of calls up on here a little bit. I'll call you. I need to come get her. So we'll schedule that. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, Lisa. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.